Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Caught on the Mic. As I always say, I am super excited. I have the better half of one of my past guests, one of my past favorite guests that I've had on in the past year. Today's guest is Carla Ondrasik, former Vice President of Creative Writer Development at EMI Music Publishing, best-selling author, and the mind behind the no-try philosophy. She's helped sell millions of records, worked with legends like Mariah Carey and NSYNC, and discovered John, Fight for Fighting, by literally hearing him sing through a wall. I can't wait to hear that story. I am super excited to talk with you, Carla. I have some of my own philosophies that fall right in line with the book, so I can't wait for an exchange of ideas. Thank you so much for doing the show today.
Yeah, yay. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Well, let's kick it right off. You, like your origin story, you've been developing the no-try philosophy for over 20 years. Do you remember the first moment you realized that trying was actually holding people and yourself back?
Yes, it actually started way before 20 years ago. I was raised a gambler's daughter. I was brought up on Long Island, New York. My dad was a gambler and not a very good one. And let me tell you, there were times when his three daughters, we were thrown into situations where it's sink or swim, do or die, no trying. So that, it was crazy. We all got out unscathed, thank God. But I really carried that through as I was growing up. And then, of course, in all the careers that I've had, especially in music publishing, you can't try. There are hundreds of thousands of songs vying for a spot of 10 on an album back in the day. And there are so many people, professionals pitching, everybody. So you can't try. You have to adopt this do or die attitude. So, and then the other thing is that I was just so triggered physically. When I hear someone say, I'll try to call you back, I'm trying to spend more time with so-and-so, I'm going to try to get around to it, my brain just goes crazy. So for me, it's like the elephant in the room. Doesn't anybody else see what I'm seeing and hear what I'm hearing?
Right. I don't talk about what I do for a day job on my show. I never will, at least for the time being. But part of what I do is developing future leaders for the corporation that I work for. And if I may be so frank, when I am sitting down with new managers, I sit down with them and the thing that I tell them is, you're going to mess up. I'll say it. You're going to fuck up and I'm going to be pissed. But I would rather you mess up and me be pissed than you not just pull the trigger and attempt to do something. So I'm completely in line with what you said. I've watched some of your content and you actually cited the Star Wars quote, do or do not, there is no try.
Yeah.
So, kind of talk a little bit about how some of your other experiences have kind of built into this philosophy a little bit.
Yeah. And, back to the Star Wars thing, little Yoda, I didn't really create this no-try philosophy. Right. Millions of kids have the posters in their room. Do or not do, that's what he says to Luke Skywalker, right? But nobody has really asked why. Why did he say that? It sounds really cool, do or do not, but why not try? And it's what he says directly right before he delivers that iconic line. He says to Luke, you must unlearn what you have learned. Do or do not. And that's the book right there. I want everybody to unlearn what we have learned and thought to believe that trying is. Your question is, I apply this to my marriage, to raising my children. It affects your health. It affects relationships. It affects your career. When you tell your people you work with, let's raise awareness. Let's increase our sales. Let's increase visibility. No. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Because I'm so programmed. When you say, let's try to increase sales, let's try to increase visibility, what they're hearing is it's optional. We're going to try to. But when you say, let's do this, now their brain says, okay, what actions, what steps are we going to take? And that applies really to everything in your life. And for me, relationships, raising my kids, friendships, everything that I want to do.
Yes. Yes, you kind of took my next question away from me there, because you say that trying equals hesitation and built-in excuses, while doing equals commitment. Why does such a small language shift create such a massive difference in outcomes?
Well, it's neuroscience, believe it or not. It's really, truly your brain. Our brain is reacting to the words we use. It's listening. We are the captain. So it's saying, what are we going to do here? Right. So when you tell it to try, I'm just going to go back for 1 second and hope I stay on track here. Trying in the dictionary, it's an attempt or an effort to do something. So we think we're doing when we're trying. But really, 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 trying is a half-hearted attempt or an effort to do something. And it's where you allow excuses and blame and zero accountability to be your wingmen. We are like hanging on by a thread because we have all these excuses and blame and no accountability. And the question was,
Well, why does the
our
change in
brain.
language?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can Google this. There's actual images. When you say, I'm going to try to do anything, your brain is lighting up a little. It's actually kind of illuminated with the dopamine, the serotonin, the adrenaline, and all that. But when you say, I'm going to do this, think about it. Your voice gets louder, you sit up straighter, your eyes get brighter. When you say, I'm trying, it's like this. When you say, I'm doing, it's like this. Well, the brain lights up and now it's ready for action. It's waiting for an action. So you can compare it to being in your car and you're in park. When you say, I'm going to try, you go to neutral. So now it's like in holding pattern. But when you go from park to drive, now you're moving. Now you're actually taking action. The same thing when you shift one word, when you change one little teeny tiny little 3-letter word, consciously change it, everything changes.
Yes. Yes.
Even your
Yes.
brain changes.
Yes, yes. A lot of people feel mentally exhausted without knowing why. So, how do unfinished I'll try to's thoughts quietly drain energy and create that constant sense of being overwhelmed?
Okay, again, with the neuroscience here, it's kind of fun. Have you ever heard of the Zeigarnik effect?
I have not, but I read references to it in regard to your book.
Yeah. So, okay, our brain, when we make a list, okay, I'm really anti-list. I'm just about just do the one thing and then go do the next thing. So this is what causes the exhaustion. So our brain creates these open loops. Anytime you write a list or say you're going to try to do something, so now it's open and all the brain wants to do is close that loop. It's looking for closure. So when you have open loop, open loop, open loop, open loop, that is energy going to nothing. It's like being in your house and having the air conditioning on, the stereo on, the television's on, every light on in the house,
Hmm.
full blast, but nobody's home. It's all energy going to nothing. And the minute you close the loop, there's calm. There's that sense of, you relax a little. Now you have room to do the next thing. And so it's physically exhausting when our mind is constantly putting energy. Entertainment knows this. So it's like, the cliffhanger on television. Tune in Thursday. They've just created an open loop in your brain. Radio does it all the time. Next up in the next 10 minutes, open loop in your brain. They're using it. They know it well. So we do this to ourselves, and it's thinking about what you're trying to do. It's talking about to everybody in the world what you're trying to do. It's worrying, wondering, researching, even listening to self-help podcasts, that's trying. That's like not doing it. You're still thinking about it. And oh my God, it's so exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about that while you were talking about, some of the high performing creatives that you've lived with, including your husband and daughter, and
Mhm.
some of the ones that you've worked with over the years. Have you noticed a difference in their bravado and their application through this philosophy of yours?
100 billion%. When I was dealing with people at the record labels, the higher up they were, they never said to me, I'll try to be there, Carla. I'm going to try to set this meeting up, and they're the ones I would have afforded that luxury to because they're so busy, their schedules change on a dime, but they never said try. It's like, yes, Carla, I'll be there, or no, I won't. They're not afraid to say no. They're not afraid to commit. So anybody operating on a level that is, successful, and you don't climb to the top by telling your boss you're going to try to deliver or try to get there on time or try to, turn in that report or try to design whatever. You have to do it. That's who's recognized. And the high functioning people are doers. And that's who we ask to help us are, the people that we can rely on and count on who do what they say they're going to do. You don't want to hear about all the stuff somebody's trying to do. It gets old because they're not doing it. How many Christmas parties are you going to come back to year after year? Like, how's that book you've been trying to write? Well, I'm still trying to come up with a whatever. Like, really? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny because you notice this in circles of fame too. And this is a totally different rabbit hole that we could end up diving down. Probably be better if we don't. But when you notice that people that are experiencing a mid-level sense of fame, and there's no other word I can use to describe it other than flaky, like a flaky mentality versus people that can hold commitment and just execute, and they tend to progress their success and make their success a little bit more, have a larger sense of longevity, if you will. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah. And I think now is a great time to introduce the question, why do we try in the first place? Right.
Hmm.
And to those people, sometimes it's fear of failure is a really big one. So they're not going to take the jump. But it's also fear of success.
Yes.
Fear of success. I kind of experienced a little bit of it. I'm 62. I have worked since I was 11 years old, like hardcore. I've supported myself from 14 years old on, and I worked, and then I had my children with a husband who was like gone touring and building his career. Now the kids are launched, and I'm like, my God, I know this is a great idea, and I have an agent who believes in me, and I'm definitely going to get a publishing deal. What if it goes? Now I'm going to have to do social media, and I'm going to have to start traveling, and I'm going to have to start emailing people again. There was a fear of success that kind of, I was hesitant about. And I think that's where people would be more apt to I'll give it a try. I'm going to dip my toe in the water, and I'm only going to go halfway. I'm going to half-heart this. So that is one of the really big reasons. And then there are the perfectionists, creative people. John doesn't want to let anything out the door until it's perfectly mixed and the master's amazing and every word is incredible. Perfectionism, it's either going to keep you from beginning because you're waiting for the perfect time, or keep you from finally setting something out into the world because it's never going to be perfect. You have to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot that also falls in line with that as far as the people that you surround yourself with as well. I have a totally separate personal TikTok account that I vlog on every day that is separate from my podcast account. In today's video, I talked about familiarity bias and proximity envy. And really what that's about is people that throw out, I don't want to say condescension, but make you second guess what you are doing just because they're close to you, they have access to you, they feel that they can openly criticize yourself. Criticize you, like taking your philosophy, the no try philosophy. It does take a stronger person to be able to set those boundaries. Maybe not initially, but
the questions you're asking me are so amazing. You're just so smoothly leading into these things that are so important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. There's something called, so it's one of the tips. How do you go from trying to doing, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things in the book, and that I have used my whole life, it's the power of silence. And nobody knew what I was doing. And what that does is you shut out the people that either love you and care about you, that might have said, Carla, are you sure you want to take all this time? You've never written a book before. You're a little older. You don't really have a platform. So they're going to protect me because they don't want me to fail. But then there are the people that do want you to fail, that are jealous, they're equating their success to yours and they want to hold you back. So the power of silence is such an amazing tool because it's like your secret. It makes it more fun to work on. It's kind of motivating, like, wow, I can't wait to tell everybody what I've been working on and doing without them even knowing it. And there were people in my family that didn't even know I was writing a book. I had friends that had no idea. And so, yes, that happens. And there are so many reasons why people do it. But the power of silence is just one of the top tools that you can use.
Yes. You cited neuroscience before, and there's also an element of psychology that goes through this. And there's so many layers to this onion that we could peel back, that when you do take a philosophy such as yours and you apply it to your life and you are just doing, you can run a risk of a little bit of imposter syndrome whenever you're seeing the results of what you're creating or those amazing things that you are accomplishing. Right?
I feel it every second of every day. Okay. I'll tell you, you'll like a little tiny secret. People magazine just approved an article that's going in a February issue. And I woke up this morning going, are you kidding me? Like my article's going to be People. I look at my name on my book and it's in Barnes and Noble and I Google it on Amazon, like just to make sure it's still there. Like literally. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. So I think in moments like that, I think about, okay, Carla, why did you do this in the first place? You really did it to help people. And you can call it the universe. It gave me all the opportunities. I put my blood and guts into this. It was a lot of hard work. Remember all the hard work you put into this. So you deserve it. And there's a really great reason that it's out there, So I think that kind of holds me to the ground and weights me down to make me realize that this is real and I really do deserve it. And I've lived it and I know what I'm talking about. And that's why I'm sharing it. But it's real. It never goes away, by the way, ever, ever. I feel it every single solitary day.
Yeah, there's acts of servitude, which I feel this is. Whenever you're sharing a gift with the world, it is kind of an act of servitude. So what really compelled you to create this book to help people in their lives? What was it? What was that catalyst that made you put this to paper and put it out in the world?
I would have to answer that and say that I didn't want to be on my deathbed. And this would have happened. I'd be laying there thinking, I regret that I never wrote the book. Yeah. Like I had this message and nobody else was writing about it. And I didn't do anything about it. I didn't want regret. I did not want to carry this regret with me for the rest of my life. And every year that went by that I wasn't doing it, through COVID and I had all that time and, I hated myself. I felt like such a loser. Like you're so lazy and weak or scared or whatever it is. And finally I just was like, that's it. I'm done. And I don't want to keep this feeling going and I don't want to regret it. So I did it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Like high functioning creatives, like feel the need to share with the world. I just kind of personal anecdote. That is the exact reason I started this podcast during the heat of COVID. After many years of grinding in my own version of the music business, I stopped about 15 years ago. And I kept telling myself, I'm like, maybe I should start a podcast. And I had friends encouraging me. So in the peak of COVID, I'm like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it ever. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off. And the next day I'm getting all this equipment from Amazon. And my wife is like, what are you doing? And I told her, she goes, okay. But it's that same exact philosophy. If you have something worth sharing with the world, you have to just do it. Don't talk about doing it. Don't try. Just do it, right?
That's right. And, we think we have forever, but we don't. Our time here is finite. You can't keep putting it off and putting it off. And, just because I'm saying don't try, do, it doesn't guarantee you success at all. But it guarantees you a better chance of success. And that's what we need. And, just starting something, beginning something, that motivates you to keep going. And, another thing is that's so important to me is really affecting the younger generation. If I could wipe this word out, I just spoke to a group of at-risk youth who are aging out of the foster care system. And the director of the agency called me today and said, Carla, the kids, they can't stop talking about it. And one girl went ahead and finally bought a car. She's been terrified. And anyway, so it's the younger generation. They lean on try now more than ever. I don't know if you have kids, but they're dipping the toe in the water. They're giving it a good try. And then when it gets when it gets, hard or uncomfortable, they just give up and go try the next thing. They're losing accountability, self-accountability. And that's then in turn going to just deteriorate their self-esteem, because you have to do something and put the elbow grease into it and see it through to at least, is it going to work or not? And that's where all your pride comes from. But the kids these days, it's a push of a button and I can have a smoothie delivered to my door. They want everything quicker, faster, and easier. It's not their fault. It's the way things are. But we need to bring back the mindset of taking strong, determined action instead of half-assing it with a try.
Yes. The cadence of accountability is definitely missing in this convenience-driven world. I have daughters myself and a son, and it's something we talk about frequently. My upbringing, very similar to yours. I was out on my own since I was 16 years old, been supporting myself since I was 16, and I've made a pretty decent life for myself. But I also know that I'm the smaller portion of the statistic versus somebody else that probably would have ended up in the same circumstances that could have made a lot different life choices. And a lot of that was based on survival. It's wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's better to grow up with like hardships and not a lot of money and not a lot of support, because it really forces you to think outside the box. It could go one way or the other, but with our kids, I would never buy them a car. It's if you want a car, you're going to have to get a job and earn that car. Our daughter is now heading into the music world herself. And there's a lot of times that I want to, give my input, but I hold back. It's like, maybe she'll come up with something totally different and that'll work for her. I don't mind seeing people fail because that's how you learn. It's a really good thing. So failing is not such a bad thing. Let them fail.
Yeah, John and I talked about that when I had him on the show, because my daughter's also a singer as well. And it is really hard to not want to yay, maybe you should try this. This fits your voice really good. Maybe you should try it, so I get it.
Yeah. Don't ever say, try this to your kids. Just say, do this.
Yes,
by the
there
way.
You go.
If it's anything, because you want to say, do this, read this book, meet this person, start doing.
Yes.
Because then your kids, if you say try, they hear it's optional. I don't have to do it. It begins with you starting to change your language and listen to other people. And you can actually change the outcome of someone else to your favor. If you have to have a meeting or something and someone says to you, okay, Mike, I'll try to be there at 9:30. You can look at them and say, will you be here at 9:30 or not? I have a really tight schedule and I need to know. And that moment, the millisecond they say, I will be there at 9:30, you have now redirected their brain. Now their brain is lit up on a different level and it's going to go to the do method, and it's not going to stop for gas on their way to get you or shoot off another email or log in at 9:35. They've now said the words, I'll be there at 9:30. And now their brain has a direction. It's amazing. Do it with the kids too. Use it.
You know what's funny? You just sounded like a fly on the wall in my office watching me talking to some of my subordinates and telling them, so are you or are you not?
Love it. I love it. You can even use a little Yoda voice.
Right. So let's have a little fun here. You famously discovered your now husband, John Ondrasik, Five for Fighting, by hearing him sing through a wall. What made you do something about that moment instead of dismissing it as a passing through?
It's so crazy. I was working for Zomba Music Publishing, and I really didn't like my job. It was a lot of rap and R&B. Too Short was following me around the office. I also did get to work with Poison, and Mutt Lange. I had some really great people. Selena, who she was mine. She was my artist. Anyway, so here I found myself thinking, how am I going to pitch these songs of these R&B artists? And I was at Motown Records, and I'm having a meeting. And right before it started, a voice came through the wall, and I said, "What's that?" Like, "Oh my God, that's the most beautiful voice I've ever heard." And the guy said, "Oh, that's the secretary's boyfriend. He has nothing going on." And I'm like, "You're kidding me." Like, that voice is a radio voice. It's so amazing. So of course I got a cassette. It was that long ago. And then I thought I have to see this guy perform to see if I can work with him and get him a deal. So I went to a club on Melrose and Vine, with the cappuccino thing making noise the whole time. But I saw John at the piano, and I'm like, that's it. I walked up to him after with a cigarette and a leather jacket, and I'm like, I get people record deals, and I can make your dreams come true, honey. And I did. I signed him up. Then I went to work for EMI, and he was my first signing. And then, we fell in love, and it's been a great story. But that's how my brain thinks. I'm like, the voice through the wall. Oh, that guy needs to be on the radio. So I don't think about the shoulds, the woulds, the try, the excuses, the blame of why it wouldn't happen. I don't even go there. I just say, okay, how do I get this guy on this radio? Well, first I have to sign him. Then I have to develop him. Then we have to have the song. Then I have to invite the people. It's just, what am I doing to make it happen? And it was the perfect.
So how does he apply the no try philosophy in his life?
He's really starting to, which is amazing. He resisted. A lot of people resist this because they don't want to give up they don't want to give up their excuses, their blame. They don't want to be accountable. And one of the biggest things I see in John, and it's his favorite part of the no try philosophy, you could call it, his favorite chapters, is we try because we're so afraid to say no. So we say, well, I'll try to be there. I'll try to make it. I'm going to try to do this for you. And we think that that's kinder and gentler. But when you say you're going to try to do something and you don't do it, you're going to mess with yourself because you're thinking, oh my God, I said I would, I should, I could, but I'm not gonna, and I'm going to make up an excuse. And the other person's, you're giving them like this false hope. So they're thinking, wow, John said he would try to do so-and-so, or he'd try to come to this event. And now they're like waiting for you, saving a seat for you, responding, emailing you. It's just a mess. It's such a waste of everybody's time, yours and theirs. So he has started saying no, very clearly no. You don't have to be mean about it. You can be clear about it and welcome them to invite you again. But I see him do that. I see him, he's self-correcting. If he says, I'll try, he goes, no, nope, I'm not trying. I'm going to do it. I mean, he's really getting it, and it's great.
I love that. For someone who might be listening or watching this right now, who's stuck saying, I'll try, what are one or two simple science-backed exercises that they can use today to become a doer?
The first thing is do something today that you've been trying to do, something tiny. Maybe it's, I've been trying to call my friend across the country for like the last few weeks now. Make that phone call, because you're going to realize it's so much more fun. It was so easy. It took less time than you thought. And the science is that the motivation follows, because once you make that call and you have that great conversation, now your brain's fired up. Okay, what am I going to do next? Now I'm going to clean the junk drawer. in the kitchen that I've been looking at for a year now that won't close. It's going to take me 7 minutes because everything's garbage and I'm going to throw it. And then you do that. And then you do the next thing and the next thing. So start small, like literally do something today, no matter what time zone you're in, and complete a task that you've been trying to do. That's one. And another thing is really bring to a conscious level every time you say try, and hear yourself. Pay attention to when you say that word and kind of give yourself pause and listen to when other people say it. Just notice how often you're using the word and somebody else is, because when you start becoming conscious of it, that's where you can stop using it.
Fantastic advice.
Good.
You know, what I love is if you marry this philosophy with James Clear's Atomic Habits philosophy.
Wow.
Are you familiar with James Clear? I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite anecdotes of his is the one of building a habit of going to the gym. He tells this story about how he would go to the gym 5 minutes every day, pull up to the gym, walk into the gym, take a lap around the gym. He was in there less than 5 minutes, and then he would leave, because that created the habit of going to the gym every single day.
Yes.
So hearing your philosophy and pairing it with his, man, people can improve their lives pretty quickly.
It is instant. Do we have time for a very quick story?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
This really, really sums up how magical, how amazing, and how quick and life-changing not trying is, okay? So my kids, when they were in school, they had to go to the bus every day. So I would take them at 7 a.m., drop them at the park. And so I would stay and I'd let the dog out and we'd run around the park and hang out. So I used to see this guy walking around the loop with these giant headphones on, just every day walking around. And I wondered, like, what's he listening to? Is he listening to Five for Fighting? You know, I was just so interested. So I would never bother him. But one day he had the headphones off and he was like fiddling with them. And I'm like, this is my chance. So I kind of went over to him and I go, hey, I see you here all the time. What are you listening to? He goes, well, I'm listening to these motivational tapes and books on tape and podcasts. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to do that I don't get done. So I heard the word, the try word. My brain goes up and I can't help myself. So I said to the guy, I don't know this guy. I said, tell me one thing that you're trying to do. Just one thing. He says, well, I'm trying to get back into swimming. I'm trying to go swim. And we have the new YMCA. So there's one thing. And I just looked at him and I said, why don't you stop trying to go swim and go swim? And that was it. He was like, okay, bye. Headphones work, walked away. And I thought, I'm never going to see him again. I've just ruined this beautiful park for him. The guy thinks I'm insane. 24 hours later, I dropped the kids at the bus at 7 a.m. and this guy is screaming across the park, I did it! I didn't try, I swam. He was so excited and he's changed his whole life. He quit his job. He changed careers. He stopped trying. So this is what trying looked like for him. Listening to the podcast, waiting for the motivation, waiting for the right time. Forget all that. All he needed to do is go frickin' swim. And he did it in 24 hours. So I love that idea. You know, that whole story just sums it all up.
Yeah. It's what's funny in moments like you just shared is people don't view things as being two different baskets. It's like your time utilization skills. That time that you are spending listening to that thing to motivate yourself, you could just be doing the thing that you're trying to motivate yourself to do. Right?
Yes, it's so true. And it's just so much more fun to be in the middle of the ocean and failing and learning and pivoting and being alive. Yes, that's how I feel with this whole new book experience. I've learned so much. And yeah, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fall flat on my face. I'm going to make mistakes. But hey, you know, I feel like I'm 20 years old again, like learning and getting the wins and being scared, being proud. That's all the stuff that happens when you stop hiding behind your try. And I really want to say also to people, the other tip would be sit down with yourself and say, what's my big try? What is my try? What's my thing that I really have been trying to do that's important to me? What's my try? And what's my reason for trying? Is it fear of success? Is it fear of failure? Is it whatever my reason is? Am I afraid? Am I whatever? Just figure that out and then address that so that you can get to your thing.
Yes. So to challenge you and your own philosophy here for a moment, let's, when's the next book coming?
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I do have a really great idea. So I want to do a children's book about this because children do not use the word try up until the age of 2. I mean, up to 2, it's I do, I do, I do. But they soon realize that their intentions for building the blocks all the way up to the ceiling, I'm going to do this, they don't come true. So they start to realize that, failure happens, mistake happens, you get judgment, maybe you get in trouble, you get punished. So instead of saying I do from 3 to 5, 6 and on, now they start incorporating I'll try to protect them. So I want to do a book and it's going to be the little girl who does. And I'm sorry, Mike, but the little boy who tries.
That's okay.
It'll be a little like a book that can really get to kids at that little 3 to 5 age, where at that age they're seeing, wow, trying isn't such a good word. The little girl that did it and her mindset was, I'm going to do this. And look, she had to take action. So if I can get kids on that level, that would be amazing.
Yes. Well, I got to tell you, you're never going to offend me because I am a strong girl dad and there's nothing that I want to see more than my girls be strong, independent women. So
good
doing as opposed to trying, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Right. Okay, so my next 2 questions, and it's kind of wrapping this up, is you've helped sell millions of records, and now you're helping people redesign their lives. What do you hope readers and listeners ultimately do after engaging with Stop Trying?
Well, that, of course, that they change their lives and that they share this message and keep it going because we have to help each other. That I really hope that they not only help themselves, but share it and help everybody else. That would be amazing.
I love that. And now, for the sake of redundancy, I'm going to ask you a very similar question, but it's my closing question that I ask every guest that does my show. And that's, what's your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today through your eyes and your experience?
Well, I'm going to say it's honesty, being honest. If we all were not afraid to tell the truth or, don't hold back. Don't worry about what everybody's going to think of you because it takes bravery to be honest. And I think if more people were brave and stood up and spoke out about what they believe, there's a lot of people doing it, but there's a lot of people that aren't. We see the protesters and everything, but there's a lot of people that are silent. And so in your relationships, in every way, to be honest is the biggest key to changing the world. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Carla, why don't you plug your stuff one last time? Tell everybody where they can find you, your book, and everything about it online.
Okay. So yes, the books are available everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, anywhere you can buy books. I mostly love my Instagram and I put out a post every day, 7 days a week, because not trying is like a muscle. You have to keep getting reminded to not try. And I do really fun posts, really good ones. So go to my Instagram and sign up. It's just a great hit every day. And then I have a website, stop-trying.com. You'll get some free goodies. You'll get downloaded the Try Baby test to see if you're a Try Baby, which is a whole nother thing we never talked about. There's so much. So find me everywhere and buy this book. You can open it up and close it in the matter of a day or two, and it will change your life.
I love that. And I tell you, Carla, next time I have you on, which I will have you on in the future, I'm not going to try. I'm going to have you on in the future. We will address all those try babies and put them in their place.
I love that. I will say yes anytime you want me to.
Carla Ondrasik, thank you so much for doing this show. The world is a much better place with you in it.
Thank you. You too.